It's 9:30, so I'd like us to formally commence our committee meeting for this morning, strategy planning and growth. So welcome everyone. I would like to open the meeting this morning with a reflection, and as things happen, I've been mulling over the last few days what I was going to share to open the meeting. And it occurred to me as I was contemplating it in the early hours of this morning that there's been a lot happening for a number of us around the table over the last few days. People have been going here, there and everywhere doing really good stuff in their role as councillors and mayor. And a number of us here attended the forum last night around the fluoride. And generally speaking, it was a very respectful meeting. Unfortunately, after the public part had finished, I had a very unsafe. A number of our colleagues here witnessed. So I was pretty shaken when I got home. It took me a while to settle my bones, and thankfully my daughter, who's, I must admit, his apple hasn't fallen far from the tree, was able to keep me calm. So after a bit of a sleepless night, picture this, at 7 o'clock in the morning, I'm there having my coffee. My husband's gone off to shift the bulls, and there's a bull wandering past my bedroom window. And I went, well, I won't tell you exactly what I said. So picture this, me flapping around in my dressing gown, trying to get the bull out of my garden, which had completely wrecked already. It's the third time now. And so after having put all the plants in a bucket and watered them and thought I'm going to deal to my husband when he gets through this door. Anyway, calmness prevailed, and I finished my cup of coffee and opened up my computer, and the first thing that came up was this reading I'm about to share. And I thought, someone is watching over me. And so just to set the scene, just to acknowledge that there's a heck of a lot going on in the business of this council and beyond. So my opening reading this morning will sound familiar, but I thought it's probably time we all mulled over the words that I'm about to read you. Go placidly amid the noise and haste, and remember what peace there may be in silence. As far as possible, without surrender, be on good terms with all persons. Speak your truth quietly and clearly, and listen to others, even the dull and the ignorant. They too have their story. Avoid loud and aggressive persons. They are vexations to the spirit. If you compare yourself with others, you may become vain and bitter, for always there will be greater and lesser persons than yourself. Enjoy your achievements as well as your plans. Keep interested in your own career, however humble. It is a real possession in the changing fortunes of time. Exercise caution in your business affairs, for the world is full of trickery. But let this not blind you to what virtue there is. Many persons strive for high ideals, and everywhere life is full of heroism. Be yourself, especially do not feign affection, neither be cynical about love, for in the face of all aridity and disenchantment, it is as perennial as the grass. Take kindly the counsel of the years, gracefully surrendering the things of youth. Nurture strength of spirit to shield you in sudden misfortune. But do not distress yourself with dark imaginings. Many fears are born of fatigue and loneliness. Beyond a wholesome discipline, be gentle with yourself. You are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. Therefore, be at peace with God, whatever you conceive him to be, and whatever your labours and aspirations, in the noisy confusion of life, keep peace with your soul. With all its sham, drudgery, and broken dreams, it is still a beautiful world. Be cheerful, strive to be happy. So that has settled us into our bones for what I am sure will be a very constructive, positive, and satisfying meeting for us all, given what's on our agenda. So once again, welcome to everyone. I have an apology for lateness from Councillor Naoma Chase. No other apologies been received. I think we're all still in the room. Doesn't appear to be a public forum. Team at the back there. Is there any notification of items not on the agenda that anyone wishes to? Okay. Any declarations of conflict of interest in relation to today's meeting? Okay. So let's step through and confirm the minutes, which have in your hands from Tuesday the 13th of February. We'll go through page by page and then we'll take the recommendation. So page 3. Page 5. Page 6. I have someone move that recommendation that the Councillor Peter, do I have a seconder? Councillor Steve. All those in favour? Carried. Right, so I'm doing a wee bit of a rejig of the agenda that you've received, councillors. We have Shannon joining us around about 10:30 physically, so I've decided to rearrange the agenda. So I've asked Peter and Angela to speak to their items first rather than further down the track. So if we go to item number 7.2, everyone, welcome Angela, and thank you for taking the time out to provide us with an update on where the policies and bylaws are sitting. Thank you.
It's a very simple update today, and not really anything new. Things are ticking along as we had anticipated last time. I have just provided a update on the consultation dates, which I didn't have ready at the time of writing the report. So as we know, the LTP is going to consultation in May with the hearing in June. The WMP will be consulted on in July.
Pretty busy year, everyone. So no risks associated with us moving a month across the bylaws.
It doesn't change or readiness, or it doesn't push out the tranche 2 at all, and probably there would be more risk in having a lower quality consultation material by pushing the task on comms at this point. So it's better that we delay it and get some give comms a bit of a break from the LTP and actually have some time to do produce material.
One of the things I know we've talked about around this table is consultation overload for our community. Is there a sense that looking at this, she's going to be a few months of overloading for the community?
Potentially, but we have to do the special consultative procedure for the bylaws reviews. The WMP has to be consulted on. And also what is not in there yet are the 17A reviews, because I don't know what those project timelines look like just yet. I don't think we can avoid these consultations because I mean, we're legally required to do them.
You've made a statement there in 4.1 that the security policy and procurement they may be presented to audit and risk.
That's the aim. To get them to audit and risk.
Waving your finger, no?
I wasn't on that particular point, but Chair Sharon, I was just going to say I'm quite excited that the waste minimisation plan will be a separate consultation. I think it's a large piece of work. It's a piece of work for the future, and I know that we've got many residents that are really passionate and interested in this, as well as councillors around the table. So I'm quite looking forward to that being a separate part. So I don't think that will be overload. I think that's a separate opportunity, and really excited to see it there.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I'm just looking at this myself. I think looking at the actual bylaws that need consultation, I think if we were smart, I can't see some of those having massive public involvement. But I think if we were smart and think about our involvement and the staff, we could possibly put those together in a block somehow and then go out on a one platform consultation. I'm thinking an easy way. When I'm thinking the looks of the keeping of animals, cats, poultry, bees, and then the public places bylaws, I wouldn't think that'll stir up hugely. But I thought if there's an easy way of doing this and confirming with our and keeping in line with our requirements, that might be a consideration for July, August, perhaps. Just a comment. Whether it's possible to do that, I don't know. But I'm thinking if you can be efficient and smart and easy for us and for the public on these, I'm sure there's a way to do it.
We'll consult on the tranches, as a group of bylaws, and I would imagine that we will be highlighting changes. So whether it's not actually changes or they're minimal or something, it may not stir up a lot of response. So I'm personally not 100% sure what if any changes there are, but that would be the focus of the consultation. So each tranche will be consulted on as a block of bylaws, with the focus being on significant changes, to keep it simple.
Questions, me, Tracy?
Just going back to the security policy and the procurement policy may be presented to audit risk in July. I think that would be great. At the very least, they need to go through the chair, but those two are both very significant policies that do need to be given greater consideration, and especially the procurement policy and how that impacts other contractors, our alliance, fits within the district strategies. So my preference is that they certainly do go through that process, but I understand the pressures that are there at the moment. But if we could get those through the chair and I guess keep us posted if they're not going to meet that audit and risk meeting.
Anything else you want to add, Angela? No, thank you. Any other questions? Thanks, Angela. Okay.
Move the recommendation.
I was about to get to that. Thank you very much. So moved by Chair Kerry for receiving the update, seconded by councillor Mike. All those in favour? Right.
We'll now move on to item number 7.3. And I can see the smiley face of Peter Wimsett online. Looking very holidayish, Peter. Okay.
That does that. Can you hear me okay?
Here we can. Yeah, where's your tie?
Didn't bring one, sorry.
No, welcome, Peter. We certainly appreciate you dialing in and becoming part of this discussion. You've prepared a report for us, and I know you've been fairly busy, but I really would like you to take the time to step us through, because this high level rollout of legislation and LTPs and a number of items that you referred to are actually really important when we consider the overarching umbrella that we're required to meet and comply with. So very much appreciate that you've got eyes on this. Perhaps you could step us through, and all of us here could reflect on and perhaps ask a couple of questions when you go through. So I'll leave it with you, Peter.
Okay, thank you. So clearly we had the fast track legislation come through quite swiftly, and we had to react to that. So we implemented the subcommittee process of this committee to approve that. Probably the Horizons Regional Council submission that we did have to get in yesterday, it feels like, that had to be done in a hurry as well, which was suboptimal. But we did respond, and we've now got confirmed meeting in person if we require to speak to the Horizons and the legislative committee it's the Environment Committee, Select Committee of Parliament that will hear our discussion on the points that we made in the report. In terms of other things happening, even over the last 24 hours, the RMA reform has come through, a statement on that. So this is the speed at which things are happening. That has great implications for us in terms of national policy statements, in terms of freshwater management and the freshwater biodiversity. So there are quite a lot of implications that are rolling through that actually do affect how we plan and budget. So clearly they are not going to be in this initial draft of the LTP, but in saying that, we won't have exact definition of those impacts for some time yet. In terms of the list of other items that we need to submit on coming up, there's one that's really focused on Treasury's responsibility from the Office of the Auditor General on grant funding from central government that includes to that of our of local government. So there had been, I think, an assessment that the way the previous government issued grants and funding weren't properly controlled at times, and the Office of the Auditor General has found that the speed at which those grant systems had been established weren't necessarily effective in terms of monitoring control over the public finances. And so there is an implication for us. So it comes back to, through the chair, that question of how able are we to influence the outcome of any consultations, such as a document from the Office of the Auditor General to government. We have the opportunity to submit, but it's not clear to me how much we could influence that particular one. So there is a lot going on. I think we need to continue with the subcommittee process with maybe more of this committee meeting more frequently as the government rolls out its new legislation, so that we can respond as a committee rather than as a subcommittee. That would be a suggestion. And obviously there are some significant areas relating to my item 5.2 on the report I've covered 3 waters, freshwater, but 3 waters and Maori wards. Those things are clearly of interest to us as well, and they will be rolling out over the coming 2-3 months. In terms of just coming back to the fast track legislation, the overall concern that we had with that is that it really sets up local government to conflict with ministerial. Our basic premise for existence under Section 4 of the Local Government Act, and it's to promote accountability of local authorities to their communities. And 4D provides local authorities to play a broad role in promoting the social, economic, and environmental and cultural well-being of their communities, taking a sustainable development approach. So that means that if a minister makes a decision without taking on local context and views, we are set up as the only point of reference to stand up for their concerns. And I think we're probably seeing that in terms of the wind energy projects that are underway currently. Have you got any questions?
Thank you, Peter. It's commendable how quickly we have followed some due process, and I have some questions perhaps that Brian could answer later on. But so what is attached here, councillors, is the submission, the fast track one that a number of us convened and contributed towards with Peter's crafting and insight. Those of you who see it in item 4.1, that we were considering a submission which was due by 5 p.m. on Monday. Well, we finished it off about 4:30, didn't we, Tracy? So, so that submission has been completed, and I understand there is a copy being sent at some stage for everyone to view. So I'm very mindful that this committee was one of its reasons for existing was to be able to provide that governance oversight to contribute towards an officer or officers or areas within the council to ensure that we stay on top of that. As you said, Peter, if we believe we can make an influence, then we should put our foot through the door and make sure we have had our say. So very much appreciate the fast work and the turnaround that you've provided for particularly the fast track legislation bill, but also certainly the submission that we've prepared towards the Horizons long-term plan. So I'm just going to open up the floor to anyone who's got any questions for Peter before I've got a number of questions I'd like to ask him. Look, Peter.
Chair Sharon, possibly not a question to Peter, but with regard to the submission on to Horizons, is there a process where we read with the submission that we made, or that we accept this submission we made, or is it the thoughts of 1 or 2 people only?
So that also was a quick group effort for which we did oversee and get every item that the Horizons Regional Council was asking us to submit on some position, and there was a element of what I did and then what was reviewed by I think Tracy, Sharon, Scott, maybe, who else was in the room?
Yeah, the staff.
But
I'm just thinking, I guess I'm thinking of the process. Was there an agreement that subgroup would make
Ideally.
Right, thank you.
we didn't have much choice.
No, I realise that, but I'm being a bit pedantic, if you know what it is.
Absolutely. The other thing
was agreed that would happen, I take it.
It had to be. I think was the answer. I just wanted to call out to Amy, who worked very hard on getting that fast track submission done. So that was a similar quick turnaround job.
Councillor Scott.
Thanks very much, Chair Sharon. Thanks for the report, Peter, and absolutely echo that with the fast track legislation for the work that Amy put in. I suppose wanted to ask it similar to what Councillor Johns was talking about and something you mentioned before, Peter, about perhaps having the need for the whole committee to meet more frequently during this new avalanche of submissions. My understanding, and although we haven't used the subcommittee much because there hasn't been a whole lot happening, was the purpose of having the subcommittee was councillors who either had an interest in that particular area or expertise. Every councillor is a member of that subcommittee, can choose to take part if they want to and if they feel that they can add value. My personal view is that works really well. I think it worked really well on the fast track submission where we had some diverse views around the table. I wouldn't necessarily suggest we have to have more formal meetings. I think a submission in its very essence is more of a working type group where we can, be a bit more free and flowing around those ideas. So my suggestion, Madam Chair, is that we keep it the same as the working group, and if we have to create some more structure around that, absolutely fine. But I think the fast track submission was a real testament to how that can work and work effectively and work quickly.
Tracy.
And I think it's great to have a plan. There is an avalanche coming at us at the moment. But for a smaller council, and I really appreciate the work of both Peter and Amy in that, but even local government on Thursday and Friday prior to that had been working with the rest of the councils around the country for the Local Government New Zealand and the Taitoa submission. For smaller councils like us, we have to lean in on those big pieces. We just don't. We just don't have the big team to focus on that. So I think the fast track one, whilst it was, a really quick turnaround by people that were passionate and understood it, it did work well. So very much thank everybody for doing that. And I think it was a really good submission to put forward with the Horizons one. We can be a little bit more planned and timely on those, and as soon as something comes out, we could be on that. But it's also nice to work with the community and find out, get those views from the other members of the community about where that goes. So it is a really hard process, but the committee and the way that was done worked well. I'm not sure that I'd want more formal meetings either, because it's more papers and workload internally.
Thanks, Madam Chair. I just various members that I couldn't be involved on that on Friday. I was here, but I did catch up with Amy. Said I think it was great work and done at high speed. It was fantastic, but not really a question. I think I agree with what's being said and Scott's comments about the method of doing it. But I just was going to make a quick comment about something I won't go on with too long, but me, Tracy and I went to the Road Controlling Authority yesterday, and it was about Road Controlling Authority, but it actually morphed into more than that, and we had ministers and some really senior people there. But Tracy and I were very interested, as were some other people in there, about the Crown's view, particularly the ministers and Minister Jones, who's Minister for Regional Development and stuff, about their view and what the government's view is about fast tracking and stuff. And I think Tracy and I, and Hamish was there. I think we'll do a little report and come to the next ICM meeting or to Tracy's meeting, because it'll be very illuminating. But what we came out of that was a very high level view of where this is going. And it's probably not going to favour going to favour a lot of dissension or small communities. There's a track down here and so it was just, but anyway, well, it's not the forum to discuss that because we're looking after our backsides, and Peter made the comment, it's all arriving on our doorstep, the criticism about everything, but the minister and the government are not too worried about that in our view, but we'll come back with an interesting little report about that. But it was a very, very interesting and valuable few hours there about a lot of this and road. I suppose we summed up, no mucking around, guys. Get on with it. Get your projects to the thing. We're not worried about one frog in a wasteland. We want to build a highway. Just shift the frog and get out of the way. And so it might make you feel worried about doing all the fast track stuff, but I can see that interesting. You might be cynical about how much effort will we put into taking all that into account. Just my 5 minutes.
Yeah, questions. It's a nice little segue, actually, Councillor Kerry, and I think the question I have for you, probably, Brian, is given, in Mayor Tracy's words, the avalanche ahead of us, who within the organisation has got the oversight, is watching that stuff coming down a pipeline and is able to nimbly, provide us with the context and the information in the way that Amy did, and be able to prepare something that we can contribute to, and certainly the way that Peter has, because it's really important for us to have this watching brief and know that we're not putting something together with half an hour to go before submissions close. So I guess I'm seeking advice from you, Brian, as to who and or what part of our council has got that ability.
Chair Sharon, it is a good question, and I think the intent was that we've got Angela in a policy role, and we've brought Grace in strategy and planning. We've got Peter Wimsett sort of keeping an overview on a lot of this as well. Then we'll have those subject matter experts that will look sort of in their own patches. So obviously Amy will be keeping an eye on things around the RMA side of things, and then any sort of roading sort of changes will. So it's across the organisation, but in terms of just having one person specifically doing that, we don't have that at the moment. But just to give some background, Peter's role is evolving in terms of the national NTU role that he had is changing. So there is still a need to transition to a Three Waters, but it has freed up some capacity for Peter to do some other stuff around that sort of high level advice in terms of a lot of that government policy stuff that is changing. I think we've mentioned this before, we're not going to be able to respond to every change, and one aspect of it is actually doing an criteria assessment in terms of when these changes come through, and maybe that's something the committee can look at and Peter can think about, is when they come through, we score it in terms of our appetite to respond. Of course, subcommittee or committees can change that and go, actually, yeah, it might score a 2, but we have a particular interest in this, so we need to get that criteria assessment in place to be able to go, actually, there's 50 things, these 40 are scored a 1. We're not even going to do anything about it. These are a 2, and these ones 4 or 5s where we need to actually provide some response to. So we need to tidy that process up a bit to get, but that was the intention as well when I think we spoke about this. And then everything goes quiet, and all of a sudden we get an avalanche of everything being required on the same day. So I will talk to Peter about that to place.
Thank you for that, Brian. It covered off a couple of the questions that I wondered who has eyes on this for us, and you've answered that. The subcommittee process, I think you spoke quite eloquently to that, Councillor Scott, that without being too formal, it's a reminder that if you've got a passionate interest and or believe that you are
you want to be involved in that. I mean, it was demonstrated in 24 hours, Amy promising an email coming out that morning. And even though, you know, we all have other lives, I thought, oh, I must make sure I just read that, and or if I get a chance, be able to dial in. And I think that was very useful. Amy got on the and changed it as we went along. So I thought that was a really good demonstration of how we can do things on the fly. I felt a little bit nervous sitting in the back of the meeting room at Woodville with Peter dialing in, saying, well, this is what I've written, Mayor Tracy, Sharon, Scott, and whoever else is in the room. And we were able to sort of mix and match and have a little bit of a debate. Didn't really think that's how we should do it into the future, but appreciated that at least we have submitted something. And I understand from what you've said, Peter, that there is the ability for us to speak to that submission on the date that you've sorted out. So thank you for that. So yeah, I guess from the committee's point of view, thank you, Amy. Thank you, Peter. The insight and the experience that you've both brought to the papers that we have been able to submit, I think are extremely commendable under some very pressing conditions that we're all trying to operate in. So thank you to you both on behalf of this committee. So sorry, Councillor Erina.
Sorry, I just thought I'd add to what Brian's comments. I attended the Māori Ward webinar they had the other day, and there's going to be, in 4 weeks, we'll be able to submit to that. So submissions are coming out. And because Peter's got it on his list as well. So Peter looks like he's all over it. It was
that's
quite...
the first I heard. Thank you.
Oh, okay. I thought you nodded when I said that.
No,
yeah, so
very helpful.
Well, it was quite good. They couldn't answer all the questions. So me, Tracy, if you get any, they said they'd send the, you know, like the things out, but you know, you don't always receive them, and you may receive them. We have got them. Okay. So if you could forward them to me, that would be perfect. Thank you. But yeah, 4 weeks, we can submit on that. And it looks like it's just winding back in time back to the old legislation of 2021 with a couple of tweaks. So it'll be good to just have another read through the notes and confirm that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Erina. Any other questions before I go to the... You're waving your pen around for a reason or not, Mayor Tracy?
Thanks, Chair Sharon. Just one comment. Firstly, I think that when we talk about representing the community, yes, that was done in the nick of time, but actually our community can be proud that actually we did represent those views, and we always make sure that we do speak to those as well. I just wanted to check in and let councillors know. So through Councillor Erina, the residents of Mokomok did ask if we could support their fast track submission, and I did say that no, we couldn't. We didn't have an ability to do that without it going to full council, but I did make the offer that they could be present and sit with us as we presented to the select committee if that's an option. And I don't think Peter's heard that date, but my preference would be that we actually did that face to face if we get that opportunity.
Through the chair, no, I haven't got a date yet.
Any other questions for Peter before I move the recommendation? Got everyone's views? Well done. Get back on holiday, Peter. Goodness me. Thank you very much. Can I please have a mover then for recommendation 1.1 that we receive the submissions update? Thank you, Councillor Scott, Councillor Erina. All those in favour? Excellent. Thank you very much. And I never thought I'd say this, but we are going to have a break now. Well, I'm scheduled. We've got a very exciting hour and a half planned ahead. You need to refresh yourself and get ourselves back in here at 10:25, please. that going to work for? Woohoo! No. It is still Wahoo. Sorry, Councillor Noma. Shannon will have joined us by then, though, hopefully. Yes, exactly. So thank you. So far, we've got through most of the agenda, but as I've rearranged it, we'll be coming back to an hour and a half's discussion on the feedback we've received. So thank you very much. Go and grab your coffee and your biscuit and your